It was a Tuesday morning in January when I opened that envelope. I remember the exact feeling. Coffee in one hand, mail in the other. Standing in my kitchen wearing 2 sweaters and a jacket, inside my own house, because we'd been keeping the thermostat low to save money. The bill said $312 for 1 month, for a house that was still cold. I stood there for probably 3 full minutes just staring at that number. My wife walked in, saw my face and didn't even ask. She just quietly took the bill, looked at it, and put it face down on the counter. We both knew we couldn't keep doing this. But what were our options? Turn the heat off completely? Buy a wood stove? Move somewhere warmer? That night, I did what every frustrated person does at 2 a.m. I fell down a research rabbit hole. I started with how to reduce heating bills, and ended up, 4 hours later, on a research paper from 1978 about something called thermal mass storage. It wasn't a new invention. It wasn't some startup's crowdfunded gadget. It was physics. Ancient, boring, beautiful physics. The same principle that keeps a brick wall warm long after sunset. The same reason a stone floor holds heat for hours after the sun moves away from it. The concept was almost insultingly simple. Certain materials, dense ones like fire bricks, river rocks, even specific types of sand, have a remarkable ability to absorb heat and hold it. You pump heat into them during the day when energy is cheap or free from the sun, and then, slowly, over the next 8 to 12 hours, they release that stored heat back into the room. No electricity running, no gas burning, no mechanical parts spinning. Just physics doing its quiet, patient work. I read paper after paper. Engineers had been writing about this since the 1940s. Architects in ancient Rome had used thermal mass in their bathhouses, buildings that stayed warm through cold Mediterranean nights with nothing but clever stone placement and passive solar design. Somewhere between then and now, we had collectively forgotten this, trading it for the convenience of a thermostat and a monthly bill that kept climbing. The more I read, the more one question kept circling back to me. Why doesn't anyone talk about this? I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I want to be clear about that. But I am a person who just paid $312 to heat a house he was still cold in. And when I discovered there was a 70-year-old, well-documented, scientifically proven alternative, I got a little annoyed that nobody had mentioned it to me before. So I decided to build one. I gave myself a budget of $25. That was a deliberate choice. I wanted to prove that this wasn't a rich person's project. Not some expensive retrofit that required a contractor and a permit and 6 months of planning. If this was going to mean anything, it had to be something anyone could build on a Saturday afternoon with materials from a hardware store, or in some cases, from their own backyard. Here's what I ended up using. Fire bricks, the kind used in BBQ builds, roughly $800 rupees worth from a local supplier. Dense, heavy, excellent heat retention. River rocks. I collected these myself from a dry riverbed about 20 minutes from my house. Free, heavy, perfect. An old cooler, the big rectangular kind, lined on the inside with aluminum foil and a layer of reflective insulation I cut from a sheet I had lying in the garage. A cheap digital thermometer, under $5, to track what was happening inside the unit. That's it. No welding, no special tools, no engineering degree required. The build took me about 3 hours, most of which was the slow, satisfying work of stacking bricks in a precise pattern inside the insulated box, a configuration I'd seen in one of the research papers that maximized surface area for heat release. I charged it up that first afternoon using a small portable heater aimed directly at the open top. 2 hours of heat going in, like charging a battery. Then I sealed it, placed it in the corner of our bedroom, and waited. At 11 p.m., I pressed my hand against the side. Still warm. At 1 a.m., still warm. At 3 in the morning, still radiating heat into that room. Outside, the temperature had dropped to 5 degrees Celsius. Inside, we slept without a single layer of extra clothing for the first time all winter. The electricity meter had not moved. All right. So now you know why I built it. Let me show you how. And I want to be honest with you before we start. I am not an engineer. I am not a contractor. I don't have a workshop full of expensive tools or a garage that looks like a YouTube set. I'm just a regular person who got tired of paying for heat he wasn't even feeling and decided to do something about it. So if I can build this, and I mean that sincerely, you absolutely can too. Let me take you back to that January morning one more time, because I think the context matters. $312. That was my electricity bill. And the worst part wasn't the number itself. The worst part was that I had already been trying to save money. We'd been keeping the thermostat at 17 degrees C instead of our usual 21 degrees. We were wearing extra layers inside the house. We had draft excluders on every door. We were doing everything right, and the bill was still destroying us. That's when I made a decision. I told myself, before I pay next month's bill, I'm going to understand exactly where this heat is going, and whether there's a smarter way to create it. What I found genuinely surprised me. I found thermal mass storage. And when I tell you this technology is old, I mean old. Romans built their bathhouses using thick stone walls and underground heating chambers that held warmth for hours after the fires went out. Farmers in ancient Persia built structures using mud brick and passive design that kept food cool in summer and spaces warm in winter, without a single moving part. Somehow, in 2024, with everything we know about energy and climate and sustainability, this ancient, proven, completely free principle had been almost entirely forgotten. You won't see it advertised. You won't find it on the first page of Google when you search how to heat your home cheaper. It doesn't sell anything. There's no subscription, no replacement filter, no service contract. It's just physics. And physics doesn't have a marketing budget. Here's the core idea. And I promise this is simpler than it sounds. Some materials are incredibly good at absorbing heat and holding on to it. Dense, heavy materials especially, things like brick, rock, concrete. Even certain salts. When you expose them to a heat source, they soak that energy up slowly. And when the heat source goes away, they don't just immediately cool down. They release that stored heat gradually, over many hours. Think of it like a sponge in water. You hold a sponge under a tap, it absorbs. You take it away from the tap, it doesn't instantly dry out. It slowly releases what it absorbs. That's your heat battery. You charge it during the day, using solar energy, off-peak electricity when rates are lowest, or even just a cheap portable heater for a couple of hours. And then through the night, while you're sleeping, it slowly radiates that stored warmth back into your room. No electricity running, no gas burning, nothing. 8 to 12 hours of passive heat from a 2-hour charge. Okay, here's exactly what I used. Writing this down because I want you to be able to pause, screenshot this, and go buy these things today. Fire bricks, or 800 worth. These are the dense bricks used in BBQ pits and pizza ovens. You can find them at any building materials supplier. They're heavy, they're cheap, and they hold heat better than almost anything else at this price point. I bought about 12 of them. River rocks, completely free. I drove to a dry riverbed nearby and spent about 20 minutes collecting fist-sized rocks. Heavy, smooth, dense. Perfect thermal mass material. Cost me nothing except the drive. An old cooler, repurposed from my garage. The large rectangular kind. This becomes your insulated housing, the shell that keeps the heat from escaping upward and outward too quickly. I lined the inside walls completely with aluminum foil, shiny side facing inward to reflect heat back toward the bricks, a cheap digital thermometer, under $5. This is how you track what's happening. You want to monitor the internal temperature during charging, and then watch how slowly it drops through the night. This data will genuinely shock you. Total material cost, under 25 hours. That's it. No welding, no power tools, no professional help required. Assembly is straightforward. Place your foil lining inside the cooler. Stack your fire bricks in a tight alternating pattern, like a miniature brick wall, to maximize the surface area that will eventually radiate heat. Pack river rocks into the gaps between bricks. Place your thermometer probe inside before closing the unit. The whole build took me about 3 hours, mostly slow, deliberate stacking. Almost meditative, honestly. I charged it up at 2 p.m. on a Wednesday. I aimed a small portable heater directly into the open top of the unit for 2 hours, letting that heat drive deep into the bricks and rocks. When the thermometer inside was reading 71, I sealed the top with the cooler lid, wrapped the outside with a moving blanket for extra insulation, and placed it in the corner of our bedroom. Then I waited. At 6 p.m., still reading 58 degrees inside. Warm air rising gently from the edges of the lid. At 9 p.m., 49 degrees. Still comfortably warm to the touch. At 11 p.m., I pressed my palm flat against the side of the cooler. Still warm. Genuinely, noticeably warm. At 1 a.m., warm. At 3 in the morning, I woke up, half expecting to find it cold, and pressed my hand against it in the dark. Still warm. Outside that night, it was 5 degrees. Inside our room, without the central heating running, without a single watt of electricity being consumed by this device, it was 24 degrees. I checked the thermometer twice because I didn't believe it the first time. The electricity meter had not moved. I sat on the edge of the bed in the dark at 3 a.m. and thought about that $312 bill. And then I thought about every winter before this one. And I started planning version 2. Let me show you what happened next. Because this is the part I wasn't prepared for. It's 6 a.m. My alarm goes off. First thing I do, before I check my phone, before I make coffee, before I do anything, I reach over to the thermometer sitting on my bedside table, the one that's been recording the room temperature all night, while the central heating stayed completely off. The screen says 21.8 degrees. I put the thermometer down. I pick it back up. I read it again. 21.8 degrees Celsius, inside, at 6 in the morning, in January. I walked to the window and pulled back the curtain. The cars outside had frost on them. My neighbor's dog was doing that thing dogs do in the cold where they lift their paws off the ground one at a time. The sky was that flat gray color that means it got seriously cold overnight. I checked my weather app. It had dropped to 5 degrees at around 3 a.m. and stayed there. Inside my bedroom, 21.8 degrees. Warm enough that I'd actually kicked the blanket half off during the night without realizing it. I walked to the corner of the room where the heat battery was sitting, same place I'd left it the night before. I pressed both palms flat against the side of the cooler. Still warm, not blazing, not hot enough to burn. Just this steady, gentle, persistent warmth radiating outward, like sitting near someone who has been out in the sun all day. Quiet heat, patient heat, heat that had been working all night without making a single sound and without consuming a single watt. Then I did the thing I'd been most curious about. I went to check the electricity meter. I want to be careful here because I know how this sounds. I know the skeptical version of this story, the one where someone cherry-picks their results and calls it proof. So let me be precise. The meter had moved overnight. Of course it had. The refrigerator runs, the router runs, the clocks run. There is always some baseline draw in any house. But the central heating? Off. The electric radiator in the bedroom? Off. The space heater I sometimes run in the hallway? Off. All of it. Off. The room was warm. The heating was off. And my electricity bill for that month, the first full month I ran the heat battery through every cold night, came to $47. $47, down from $312. I'm not going to tell you the number is always going to be that dramatic. Every house is different. Every winter is different. But I'm also not going to pretend that number didn't change something fundamental in the way I think about energy and heat and the systems we've been told we have no choice but to depend on. Here's where I have to be honest with you about something that genuinely bothered me. After this worked, after I saw those results with my own eyes, I started digging deeper into the history of thermal mass heating, and what I found made me quietly, steadily angry in the way that only real things can make you angry. This technology has been documented since the 1940s, peer-reviewed papers, engineering journals, academic research going back decades. The physics is not complicated. The materials are not rare. The results, when people actually test this properly, are consistent and repeatable. And yet, When did you last see this on the news? When did your energy provider ever send you a leaflet explaining that dense bricks and river rocks could cut your heating bill by 80%? When did any mainstream home improvement channel, the ones with millions of subscribers and major brand sponsorships, sit you down and explain thermal mass storage in plain language? I'll tell you when. Never. Now, I want to be careful here. I am not the kind of person who sees a shadowy hand behind every curtain. I'm genuinely not. I believe most things have boring explanations. But I also believe this. Power companies are businesses. Businesses protect revenue. And a technology that allows ordinary people to heat their homes through the night for free is not something that helps a power company's quarterly earnings report. I'm not calling it a conspiracy. I'm just saying, follow the money. Do the math yourself. Ask the simple question, who benefits from you not knowing this? And then ask why, in 70 years of documentation, this never made it into mainstream conversation. I don't have a clean answer. I just have a warm bedroom and a $47 bill. If you've watched this far, you already know this works. You've seen the materials. You've seen the build. You've seen the thermometer at 6 a.m. showing a warm room while it was 5 degrees Celsius outside and the heating was completely off. You have everything you need to make a decision. So here's what I'm asking you to do. First, go to the description below. I've put together a complete document with the exact material list, the precise measurements I used, the stacking configuration for the bricks, and my personal upgrade tips from the 3 versions I've built since this first one. It's free. No email required. No sign up. No catch. Just open it, save it to your phone, and use it. Second, save this video right now. Not later. Now. Because this is the second time I've posted content about this topic, and the first version came down without any explanation. I'm not making predictions about what happens to this one. I'm just telling you. If it disappears, you'll know the reason, and if you've saved it, you can still build this for yourself and share it with people who need it. Third, share it. Send it to one person you know who complains about their heating bill. Send it to your parents. Send it to whoever in your life is going to spend this winter cold and overpaying and not knowing there's another way. It costs you 10 seconds, and it might genuinely change how they get through the next 5 winters. Hold up the finished heat battery, both hands, camera close on the unit. This thing cost me $23 to build. It has saved me more money than I can accurately calculate at this point. It runs on 0 electricity, makes 0 noise, requires 0 maintenance, and it works every single night as long as you charge it. Build it. Stay warm. Keep your money. Before I go, I need to tell you what's coming next. Because version 1 was good, but version 2 is something else entirely. I've redesigned the internal brick configuration to increase heat retention by roughly 40%. I've added a secondary thermal layer using a material most people have sitting in their kitchen right now. And I've figured out a charging method that uses 0 grid electricity. Just passive solar collection during daylight hours. Twice the heat output. Same 0 running cost. And this time I'm documenting every single step from the very beginning so you can build it alongside me. That video goes up next week. Subscribe so you don't miss it, because if they take that one down, you're going to want to have already watched it.